110 million bets on sporting events since its statewide legalization back in November.
Milt Champion, Maine's Gambling Control Board director, says those wagers have resulted in $1.4 million in revenue for the state so far. He adds Mainers have been betting with their heads, not over it.
Since its inception, Maine's problem gambling helpline has taken a total of 29 calls, and only 2 people have taken steps to self-exclude.
I guess people are being conscious of what they're doing with this, and slot players are not sports wagering people. Table game people are not slot people. So it's just a different segment of people that are participating. So yeah, I'm really happy because some of these other states have been saying, the complaints have been astronomical and all that stuff, and it's been smooth sailing ever since.
Champion adds early indications show more Mainers are backing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.